Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because, well, we are about to embark on a truly dramatic visual journey. If you're someone who loves seeing exactly how complex concepts are constructed visually, you are in the perfect place. Today, we're unpacking two wildly contrasting artistic depictions of one of the most famous stories in human history, the fall of man. It's completely fascinating how just a single brushstroke, a slight shift in posture, or even a tiny change in lighting can just entirely alter the meaning of a story. We're going to look really closely at how artists use those exact elements to communicate completely different emotional realities.
So, I want you to start by thinking about a pretty universal human experience. Have you ever made a mistake, just a split-second, terrible decision, and immediately felt that heavy, sinking feeling right in the pit of your stomach? You know the one, that instant, visceral realization of regret. Today, we're framing Adam and Eve not just as historical or religious figures, but really as the ultimate archetypes for making a monumental mistake and having to immediately face the consequences. We're going to look at exactly what that specific loss of innocence looks like when it is literally frozen in time.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the moment of temptation.
Just look at that incredibly bright, clear blue sky and those soft, rolling mountains way off in the distance. The artist has used a very classical framing here to establish a specific psychological baseline. Everything feels so open, so airy, and deeply tranquil. The colors are really warm and inviting, kind of bathing the entire scene in the soft, golden hour glow that inherently makes you feel safe and completely at ease. The environment itself is essentially a portrait of perfect, undisturbed harmony. It's meticulously designed to show a world entirely devoid of anxiety.
And if you look a little closer at the background, notice the elegant pink flamingo standing so calmly by the water on the right. You've got white birds gliding freely through the air, and sheep just resting quietly on the left. Now, these aren't just random background details, they are deeply intentional symbols. In classical art, animals like flamingos and sheep were constantly used to symbolize pure, uncorrupted grace and complete docility. The wildlife is entirely at ease, existing right alongside humanity without even a trace of the predator-prey dynamic. It's basically a masterclass in establishing an atmosphere of absolute innocence.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Focus your attention on the serpent at the center right, wrapping tightly around that thick tree trunk. Notice how it isn't just a standard snake. It actually has a distinctly humanoid face and upper body. This was actually a super common technique among Renaissance and classical artists. They frequently gave the serpent a human, often female face. The whole goal was to represent deceit disguised as familiarity, making the temptation seem conversational and approachable rather than monstrous. It leans down, locking eyes with Eve. Her posture is fluid and relaxed as she reaches up to take the bright red apple. There's literally zero tension here, just a quiet, fatal curiosity.
Then, observe Adam over on the left. He is standing completely upright, bathed in that soft, natural light of the garden. His arms are gently extended, and his expression is just casually receptive as he looks toward Eve and the fruit. What makes this depiction so brilliant, and honestly so tragic, is that there is absolutely no hint of fear or defensive body language. He has no evolutionary reflex for danger, because, well, in the context of this pristine world, danger hasn't even been invented yet. He is entirely vulnerable, yet completely comfortable.
So the crucial point here is that this entire composition is purposefully designed to make you feel the profound calmness of the world right before everything shatters. Every single brushstroke, from the expansive sky to the relaxed, open postures, works in perfect concert. It builds this overwhelming sense of absolute innocence, perfectly capturing that quiet naivety just moments before the ultimate mistake is made.
But as we all know, choices have consequences. What happens to an environment and to a human mind right after that catastrophic choice is finalized? Hold on to that feeling of bright serenity we just analyzed, because we are about to leave it far, far behind.
Which brings us to Section 2, the weight of shame.
Wow, we are stepping entirely out of the light now, plunging directly into the visceral, psychological aftermath. The visual contrast is immediately shocking, isn't it? Gone is that wide, airy blue sky. Instead, we are thrust into a highly cinematic, deeply oppressive environment. Heavy shadows completely dominate the frame. The dense, dark green foliage crowds the edges, making the space feel incredibly claustrophobic. It almost mimics the lighting techniques you'd see in modern dramatic filmmaking, using deep contrast to build an overwhelming sense of impending doom.
Let's analyze their radically altered body language in this new reality. They are definitely no longer standing tall and confident. They are crouching low, down near the dirt and the thick underbrush. Both of them are hiding their faces behind their hands, physically collapsing inward. They're desperately trying to merge with the shadows of the forest floor, attempting to hide not just their bodies, but really to hide from their own agonizing self-awareness. They're utterly consumed by a paralyzing shame.
Now guide your eyes from those cowering figures up the path into the background. There is a massive, brightly glowing divine figure approaching through the trees. The figure has their hands open, radiating these intense, almost blinding rays of golden light that just cut right through the darkness of the forest and land directly on Adam and Eve's backs. And this is exactly where the paradox of the composition reveals itself. Usually golden divine light is meant to be warm, comforting, inviting. But here, it acts as an aggressive, exposing force. The light itself feels incredibly heavy.
It's honestly a brilliant visual metaphor. The artist is using the fundamental physics of light, the reality that the brightest, most intense lights cast the darkest, sharpest shadows, to literalize their newfound guilt. This intense backlighting traps the figures in the foreground. They literally cannot escape it. The brighter the divine light shines behind them, the darker and more pronounced their own personal shadows become. The lighting isn't offering salvation at all. It is a harsh spotlight of pure exposure.
Let's put them head-to-head in Section 3, contrasting the two visions.
Seeing these two realities side by side like this allows you to truly feel that jarring aesthetic shift. On the left, we have the classical serenity of a bright, harmonious Eden. On the right, we have a photorealistic, dark, cinematic descent into total despair. It's a visual whiplash that perfectly mirrors the emotional crash of making a life-altering mistake and instantly realizing the weight of what you've done.
When you break down the settings side by side, it reveals exactly how the atmosphere dictates the story. Notice how the open, expansive nature of the first scene, where that warm horizon seems to just stretch on for miles in complete tranquility, it completely collapses in the second. The environment violently transforms from a lush, welcoming garden where nature flows in harmony with humanity into this dark, sharp, overgrown, and heavily constrained forest that literally appears to be closing in on them.
But the psychological shift, that is perhaps most powerfully depicted through their posture. It's like the universal body language of a child who just broke a priceless vase, but scaled up to mythological proportions. Look at the transition. On the left, it's confident vulnerability, standing tall, arms open, facing the world without a second thought. On the right, that confidence is entirely shattered. It's replaced by a desperate, hunched need to hide their nakedness, to hide their faces, to make themselves as small and invisible as possible in the dirt.
So what we are really analyzing here aren't just two different artistic styles painted in isolation. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a perfect visualization of cause and effect. It is a complete narrative arc told through just two masterfully crafted frames. The calm, almost deceptively simple inciting incident rests on the left, leading directly and inevitably to the devastating, emotionally complex climax on the right. It shows us exactly how quickly heaven can transform into hell through a single action. Moving on to our final chapter, Section 4, The Enduring Human Story. The greatest tragedy is not the mistake itself, but the unbearable weight of the realization. I mean, that really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The true power of this visual storytelling isn't just in its historical or religious context, it's in how perfectly, how surgically, these images capture a universal, crushing human emotion. They map out the sudden, agonizing transition from innocent ignorance to painful self-awareness. It's that moment when the illusion of safety shatters and you are left entirely alone with the consequences of your own free will. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. When you look back at the moments of deep regret in your own life, which of these depictions feels more real to your memory? Is it the quiet, naive moment right before the fall, or the blinding, shadowed weight of the aftermath? Art is a profoundly accurate mirror to our own psychology, and seeing it broken down like this helps us understand not just the canvas, but ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and as always, keep looking closer.